Hopes dashed for an imminent withdrawal of refugees from Nauru.
I'm not going to allow this nightmare to open up again.
Donald Trump drags Central America's migrant caravan into the midterm election debate. And the deadly battle for Hodeidah, families caught in the crossfire of Yemen's civil war.
This is SBS World News with Darren Mara.
Good evening. Hopes that refugees could be imminently removed from Nauru were dashed by the Prime Minister today. Scott Morrison dismissed a cross-party compromise to break the long-standing deadlock. Labor has shifted its position and is now willing to support a lifetime ban on refugees coming to Australia, but only if they're settled across the ditch in New Zealand.
From stopping the boats to stopping offshore suffering, this former immigration minister turned leader is defiant.
I'm not going to allow this nightmare to open up again. It was far too painful to actually fix this last time, and no one knows that. No one knows that better than me.
Scott Morrison's knocked back an offer from Labor to compromise on a deal to get more than 50 children and their parents off Nauru. The opposition's now open to their resettlement in New Zealand, even if they're banned for life from ever coming to Australia.
We don't need this lifetime ban legislation at all, but if the government's concerned, Labor's prepared to compromise.
A compromise if the ban applies just to those relocated across the ditch and not to all asylum seekers held offshore. The government says it won't budge on that.
You don't get children off Nauru by putting more children on Nauru through weaker border protection policies.
You can be strong on border protection, but you've got to be compassionate and decent and prioritise the health and welfare of these children.
New Zealand says its offer to resettle 150 refugees a year still stands.
Our offer, as I've continually reiterated, remains on the table regardless of what discussion's being had in Australia.
But even if Australia does take it up, there'd still be hundreds of people left behind. The UNHCR warns a lifetime ban on coming here would be illegal.
As a matter of international law, that kind of discrimination, limitation on people because they are refugees or former refugees simply isn't permitted.
Despite growing pressure from crossbenchers, doctors and even the Wiggles.
Whatever challenges we face, never is the answer to lock up children.
The government is cautious about its next move. It fears giving detainees other options could deter them from resettlement deals already underway, including with the United States. So far, the US has accepted more than 270 people from Nauru, but rejected almost 150 others. Advocates say that for those clocking up 5 years in offshore detention, their health is fast deteriorating. Just last night, 11 children had to be flown to Australia for medical attention.
People in Australia want to see these innocent people, our fellow human beings, given the freedom and safety they so desperately need.
It may be a while yet. Maria Zivic, SBS World News.
Well, it's 3 weeks to the day since Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi disappeared, and within hours, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan is expected to reveal what he calls the naked truth about the killing inside the Saudi consulate. Among fresh evidence pointing to either premeditation or an attempted cover-up, video of an alleged body double in an abandoned diplomatic car.
Shortly before his fateful final trip to the Saudi consulate, Jamal Khashoggi is filmed arriving at his Istanbul flat. Other new CCTV footage is much more startling. Turkish investigators believe this is one member of the 15-man Saudi hit squad, chosen as a body double to Khashoggi and wearing very similar clothes. Later seen walking the streets of Istanbul after the journalist was killed. Reports too that Saud al-Qahtani, a top aide to Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, ran the murderous operation via Skype, at one point telling the men holding him, "Bring me the head of the dog." The death and dismemberment filmed by the killers in full, according to Turkish sources. According to Saudi sources, Qahtani and this man, former Deputy Intelligence Chief Ahmed al-Asiri, were commanders in the so-called Tiger Squad, a team of assassins targeting Saudi critics at home and abroad. Both were sacked at the weekend. Does this footage point to a Saudi cover-up? A car registered to Saudi embassy staff found abandoned in an Istanbul underground car park. Here, a man seen moving items from that vehicle into another. And here, Saudi consular staff apparently burning documents a day after Khashoggi's disappearance. US President Donald Trump believes the death was a plot gone awry, earlier declaring himself dissatisfied with the latest Saudi account of murder by rogue elements.
I am not satisfied with what I've heard.
CIA Director Gina Haspel is reportedly en route to Istanbul to work on the investigation. US Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin may have boycotted this week's Saudi investment conference, but he hasn't boycotted the Crown Prince. Their meeting in Riyadh reportedly stressed the importance of the Saudi-US strategic partnership. Similar thoughts from presidential son-in-law and senior advisor Jared Kushner.
We have to be able to work with our allies, and Saudi Arabia has been I think, a very strong ally.
Tonight, after 2 weeks of leaks, hints and police evidence, Turkish President Erdogan appears primed to reveal the naked truth. According to his spokesman, adding that Saudi Arabia remains an important brother and friend of Turkey. Vanessa Armpayat, SBS World News.
High-stakes talks will be held this evening between US National Security Advisor John Bolton and Russian President Vladimir Putin. The future of an arms deal between the two countries is on the table, with President Trump threatening to bolster America's own nuclear arsenal.
It was a landmark Cold War-era deal, signed to ease spiralling tensions between Russia and the US. But the future of the INF Arms Control Treaty appears all but decided.
Russia has not adhered to the agreement.
A defiant President Trump reaffirming his intention to withdraw from it and threatening to build up the US's own nuclear arsenal.
It's a threat to whoever you want, and it includes China, and it includes Russia, and it includes anybody else that wants to play that game. You can't do that. You can't play that game on me.
Russia recently touted its new generation of nuclear weapons, but denies violating the agreement. Hawkish US National Security Advisor John Bolton is expected to relay Donald Trump's assertions when he meets with President Putin.
We will wait for official explanations from our US colleagues. If John Bolton is ready to give them, we will of course listen to him and assess the situation after that.
The 3-decade-old deal rid Europe of land-based nuclear missiles. Germany tonight warning of the catastrophic consequences of a new arms race, others criticising the US's brash approach.
And the problem is that people should be blaming the Russians, but they're not. As by virtue of this impetuous decision, the United States is being blamed for stepping out of a very important arms control agreement, and our allies see another example of American unilateralism.
Some argue the treaty has been on life support for some time and is no longer as relevant as it once was, as leaders grapple with China's growing influence.
So it doesn't make much sense for the United States to unilaterally constrain itself while Russia is cheating. Moreover, it would be very helpful to have this firepower in Asia to deal with the rising China threat. And so I think for both of those reasons, this is, again, the right call.
A president with a disdain for so-called bad international deals, on the verge of scrapping another one. Hannah Sinclair, SBS World News.
US President Donald Trump has sharply intensified his rhetoric against immigrants 2 weeks before the midterm elections. He claims a migrant caravan moving north through Central America is a national emergency and includes unknown Middle Easterners.
Thousands of Central American migrants walking north, hoping to get to and across the US border. President Trump says among them are members of the gang known as MS-13, plus would-be migrants from the Middle East.
Take your camera, go into the middle and search. You're going to find MS-13, you're going to find Middle Eastern, you're going to find everything. And guess what? We're not allowing them in our country.
Providing no evidence, he'd earlier tweeted to similar effect. Criminals and unknown Middle Easterners are mixed in. I have alerted Border Patrol and military that this is a national emergency. presumably he meant emergency at a rally in Texas, continuing with the theme of imminent threat.
As the caravan, and look, that is an assault on our country. That's an assault.
The Houston crowd loving it. President Trump on hand to shore up the re-election hopes of Republican Senator Ted Cruz. In 2016, they were the most bitter of rivals.
I tell you what I really think of Donald Trump. This man is a pathological liar.
But rivals no more. 15 days out from the midterm elections, all would appear to be forgiven.
In 2020, Donald Trump will be overwhelmingly re-elected as President of the United States.
But not if this past president can help it. Barack Obama campaigning in Nevada, where Democrats have an outside chance of capturing a Republican Senate seat.
This November's elections are more important than any I can remember in my lifetime, and that includes when I was on the ballot. That's saying something. Politicians say every time, this is the most important election. This one's really that important.
Some already casting early votes from Texas to this election centre in suburban Chicago.
15 days left. We're in the last mile. It looks like we're in for a strong and fun finish.
As President Trump hopes for a strong finish, declaring himself a nationalist.
You know what I am? I'm a nationalist, okay? I'm a nationalist.
And increasingly railing against the threat of immigration. Prue Luan, SBS World News.
And a little later, despite the Trump threat, the caravan continues. Why the annual migration is so large this year. That story shortly in SBS World News. The port city of Hodeidah, which is controlled by the Houthis, has become a major combat area in the Yemen civil war. Most of the country's food passes through the port, and the UN warns its closure could worsen Yemen's already devastating famine.
Repairing wounds of war. Surgeons in Hodeidah operate on 13-year-old Saddam. He has shrapnel embedded close to his spine. This city is now Yemen's key battleground. More civilians are being killed here than anywhere else. And 1 child in 4 is malnourished, like Amir. Too many mothers here don't watch their children grow up. They watch them waste away. 1-year-old Maria has been in and out of Al Thawra Hospital. Her mother, Yasmin Mohammed, is worn down by the conflict. The war has had a big impact, she told us. We can't even buy medicine for our children. Well, there's so much need in this hospital. You find every conceivable type of suffering connected with the war. Starvation, disease, amputations. Doctors are battling with the lack of even basic medicines. And for everyone here, staff and patients, there is the fear that every minute, day and night, nowhere is safe. That was the case for the civilians who were sitting here. Their minibus was hit at 10:30 in the morning as it passed through a Houthi checkpoint. Survivors say it was an airstrike by the Saudi-led coalition. The attack, just days before we reached Hodeidah, claimed 15 lives. We found one of the passengers, Amr Salman Homadi, a construction worker who relies on his hands. I felt happy that morning that I was going to work to feed my family, he said. After the explosion, I don't remember anything until I got to the hospital. My God will punish them and send them to hell. The United Nations says airstrikes by the Saudi-led coalition caused most civilian deaths in Yemen. But it says the Houthis also take innocent lives by indiscriminate shelling. If there's street-to-street fighting here, those who cannot flee will be trapped between the two sides. And this is the prize, the strategic Red Sea port of Hodeidah. What happens here is vital. If the Houthis lose the port, it could turn the tide of the conflict. And just minutes from the port, a community at the margins, already the poorest of the poor. We found Tahir Abdullah at home with 4 of his 8 children. The youngest, Nasim, is 2. Tahir says the older he gets, the thinner he gets. Today they are eating. Tomorrow, maybe not. It is war that has brought this nation to the brink of famine. Aid agencies say Yemenis are not starving, they are being starved.
Well, coming up next, household relief. The government promises to slash hundreds of dollars from power bills. Also, city streets filled with angry workers. Protesters demand better working conditions. And later, Geoffrey Rush breaks down as he denies groping a female colleague.
Tonight at 7:30 on SBS, the secret behind these ruins on abandoned Britain. Then at 8:30, surprising results from DNA tests on Insight. And on Dateline, the holiday paradise that's gone to hell.
Do you know the name Alice Webster?
She was abducted
2003.
yesterday.
She came right into the middle of the town square.
What's happened to her, Sam? Where the hell has she been?
Does she seem different to you?
You are her mother. You would feel it more than anyone.
I don't feel like it's her.
The Missing starts tomorrow at 8:30 on SBS and on demand.
The captain does not appear to be pleased at the arrival of his first officer. Why is this?
They were married. This should be a really fun trip for all of us.
It's gonna suck.
The Orville. Now streaming on SBS On Demand.
I'm a breakfast person. But what's important for you in a hotel? Location, cleanliness, or maybe the quality of your bed? Well, you're in luck because Trivago's got you covered. Trivago shows you the things you may care about in a hotel. Ratings for breakfast, location, and even cleanliness are calculated from more than 175 million reviews. That's just one more way Trivago helps you find your ideal hotel. Hotel Trivago.
Jax, there's one thing that's just not quite right here.
One thing?
Guy's got a nice car, executive type. Takes out this car insurance policy. Could have got top-notch cover for way less.
Yeah, that...
You said it, Jax. What the?
It's a mystery why anyone would pay more for car insurance. Get award-winning cover for less with Budget Direct. Insurance solved.
Dottie's in control of her spending with the new ANZ app, so she knows exactly when to shop and when she should probably stop. It's easy to get on top of your money with the new ANZ app.
Toyota Camry. Defy expectation. Oh, what a feeling. Toyota.
It's how we learn. It's how we connect. Language opens a doorway to amazing new ideas and experiences. SBS is calling on everyone learning a language. Send in a photo of a person, place, or activity showing the possibilities that learning a language opens for you. Win an iPad Pro. Jump online and enter the SBS National Languages competition now.
Good health.
Enjoy a glass or two with actors Matthew Good and Matthew Rhys as they roll out the barrel with Obi-Wan Kenobi, Joe Fattorini.
So do you guys ever spit when you taste?
Never.
Very drinkable. Join the Matthews as they strike out from the Villa Ravino and explore Italy's wine country.
At the end of the day, it's about weather, soil, grapes, and people.
The Wine Show, Saturday 8:30 on SBS and on demand.
Wow.
SBS News anywhere, anytime. Download the app or go to sbsnews.com.au.
Prime Minister says he's taking a big stick to energy companies to bring power prices down. Scott Morrison revived a promise Malcolm Turnbull made, while another former Prime Minister says the national leadership changes are embarrassing.
As Malcolm from Point Piper shied away from the fallout of the Wentworth by-election,
I'm not engaged in politics any longer. I'm retired.
Kevin from Queensland was more than happy to help.
It's nationally embarrassing.
And even here, it's hard to keep up.
Do you think that Bill for Malcolm Turnbull and how he should deal with the crossbench? Scott Morrison. Sorry, I can't keep up. Sorry. Him too.
Look, it's been a busy week. I don't think the people of Wentworth were chuckling last Saturday.
Scott Morrison turned door-to-door salesman.
We just thought we'd pop in.
Re-promising pensioners a coalition government.
It's not electricity going up, it's gas as well.
Yeah. Will slash energy prices by up to $800 a year.
We'll introduce a big stick legislative package into this parliament.
A pledge to whack power companies if they don't.
Well, that's what a big stick is for.
Mocked by the opposition.
Where is the big stick? All he's come up with is a toothpick.
The coalition recording a 7.1 news poll swing since the 2016 election, with the biggest slumps in Western Australia and Queensland. That would cost the government 25 seats, including those held by Home Affairs Minister Peter Dutton, Immigration Minister David Coleman, Speaker Tony Smith, Attorney General Christian Porter, Aged Care Minister Ken Wyatt, and Human Services Minister Michael Keenan.
Given the government's disastrous performance in Wentworth, why has Malcolm Turnbull gone, but you're still here?
I'm not going to take a lecture from a leader of the Labor Party who cut down two Prime Ministers. One was here yesterday, the other one was here today.
And Malcolm Turnbull will make his return to the world stage next week, attending an Oceans conference in Bali, following a personal invitation from the Indonesian president.
I did request the former Prime Minister to represent us at that conference, and he'll be there representing the policies of our government.
Proving in politics retirement isn't for everyone, and it certainly isn't forever.
No, I invited him for a cuppa one day, but I'm still waiting for a tweeted response.
Brett Mason, SBS World News.
9 union rallies have been held across the country and more are planned as workers call for wage increases to mirror the cost of living. Roads were blocked and public transport was in chaos as Melbourne and Sydney streets were flooded with demonstrators.
The unions issued a call to arms, and today more than 100,000 workers answered.
Union! Union! Union!
Our politicians are on notice. You need to stand with us working people.
Victorian Premier Daniel Andrews paying heed, leading the march through Melbourne city centre. The central message, Australia needs a pay rise. Demonstrators demanding the rules be changed to ensure wages keep pace with the cost of living.
The wage growth there virtually is not. Everything else goes up, the cost of living.
It's not enough. The way our wages at the moment is so ridiculous. It's not really enough.
The union claims 28,000 of Australia's homeless are full-time workers, blaming a minimum wage set at just over $37,000. They're loud, they're angry and they're united. Tens of thousands of workers are demanding better pay and conditions, saying the current state of wage growth in Australia is not enough to keep people out of poverty.
Our standard of living is going backwards. That should not be happening in our country, and it should not be happening at a time when profits are going up.
They also want improvements to job security.
40% of Australian workers are on labour hire, they're in contracts, they're casualised, they need permanent jobs.
Workers like Lynn, who feeds her growing family on seasonal agricultural contracts.
Quite scary because we have to plan on the winter as well.
Sentiments echoed in Sydney, with 10,000 hitting the streets. The union says 4 out of 5 working people's wages are falling short of the cost of living increases. They're promising more industrial action if the situation doesn't change.
We're going to show them who runs this country. Us workers. Yeah!
And in the coming days and weeks, we're going to be in Adelaide, we're going to be in Hobart, we're going to be in Canberra and Brisbane. There are hundreds and thousands of workers taking to the streets to change the rules.
Industrial Relations Minister Kelly O'Dwyer warned the future is bleak if a Labor government bends to reform on workplace laws. But the unions claim today's turnout to 9 rallies across the country shows the government is asleep at the wheel when it comes to wages. Abby Dinham, SBS World News.
Geoffrey Rush has fought back tears while giving evidence at his defamation trial in the federal court. The Oscar-winning actor is suing the Daily Telegraph and one of its journalists, and was again centre stage in court, denying allegations he behaved inappropriately towards a fellow actor.
Day 2 of Geoffrey Rush's real-life legal saga, and the 67-year-old remained calm as he entered court. But that changed when the Oscar winner returned to the witness box. Mr. Rush became emotional as he defended himself against allegations published in 2 front-page articles in the Daily Telegraph last year that he behaved inappropriately towards a female cast member, later revealed as Erin Jean Norval, during a Sydney Theatre Company production of King Lear. Mr. Rush wiped away tears as he described the final scene of the play in which he carried the lifeless body of Cornelia, played by Miss Norval, across the stage. For this scene, I've always imagined that it was my own real-life daughter and that she'd been hit by a bus on the street where we lived. Every night, I'd reinvent that scene in my mind. I needed that trigger. Ms. Norval alleges Mr. Rush ran his hand down her torso and traced across her right breast during the scene, allegations he strongly denies. "Did you touch her on the breasts?" Mr. Rush's lawyer asked. "No," he replied. "Did you make groping gestures in the air to simulate groping her breasts?" "No, I didn't." "Did you make comments about her body?" "No." The allegations were so hurtful, Mr. Rush admitted he even had second thoughts about his career. "It made me want to give up this profession because I was deeply hurt and embarrassed." After the Daily Telegraph published the articles, the court heard Mr. Rush was asked to resign as president of the Australian Academy of Cinema and Television Awards because a row had broken out between board members which left blood on the walls. Mr. Rush subsequently stepped down, but he says it was a decision that was very regrettable. Under cross-examination, Mr. Rush was grilled about a text message he sent to Ms. Norval in 2016, saying, "I was thinking of you as I do, more than is socially appropriate." "It was a way of saying you were very attracted to her?" asked the lawyer for Nationwide News. "No, it wasn't." The actor insisting it was simply a throwaway line. Mr. Rush will return to court tomorrow. Lydia Feng, SBS World News.
Father Chris Riley's Youth Off the Streets charity has had its debt wiped less than 24 hours after it was told it had to repay more than $600,000 in funding. Education Minister Dan Tehan said the debt had been taken care of and guaranteed its funding for the next year. A 33-tonne drilling rig loaded on the back of a semi-trailer has toppled onto a house in Melbourne. The elderly couple inside managed to get out safely, but there was extensive damage to their roof. A combination of dry weather and harsh frosts means farmers are expected to have their smallest winter harvest in a decade. Rabobank is predicting crop production to come to just 23.9 million tonnes. That's down 23% on last year. Well, Alex Lewis lost his 4 limbs to an infection, but thinking life hadn't thrown him enough challenges, he's taking on another, climbing one of Africa's highest mountains. See his story shortly in SBS World News. Well, President Trump says he'll begin cutting off foreign aid to Guatemala, Honduras and El Salvador in response to the unfolding migrant crisis. He criticised those countries for failing to stop thousands of people moving towards the US border. But the migrants say they're simply trying to flee persecution, poverty and violence.
More than a week trekking hundreds of miles is taking its toll. A town square just inside Mexico has become a makeshift camp, a place to rest on this long, punishing journey to the United States. But 2/3 of the route from their home country of Honduras still remains ahead of them.
Every day we get more and more tired, but everything that is happening back in Honduras and the thought of the future of my children is what motivates me to keep going.
But Mexicans have come out in force to help the Honduran migrants, providing free medicines and treatment, and coming to donate clothes. This, though, is just the first group of people heading through the region to America. Many more are following in what's starting to feel like an exodus. Of course, migrants head to the US from Honduras every year, but why so many at once right now? If we travel alone, it's dangerous, says Karen, who's 17. In a group, we feel safe, so when it started, I joined, and it kept growing. Well, Donald Trump now says he's going to cut millions of dollars in aid to Central American countries because they haven't been able to stop people making this migration. But all around us, we can see people from those very countries driven to do this because of the extreme poverty back home. Right along the route, local people and aid agencies have provided sustenance, but this is still no easy undertaking. We're just simple people, Jose Rodriguez tells me. There's no work back home, so we have to go elsewhere. We're not looking for problems with anyone. We just want to provide for our families. This may have become a political story in the United States, but as they prepare to resume their tough journey, it's clear what's brought so many people together is not politics, but sheer desperation.
2 US warships have passed through the Taiwan Strait. A US Navy spokesperson says the action demonstrates America's commitment to a free and open Indo-Pacific. The US military is increasing the frequency of transits through the strategic waterway despite opposition from China. A similar mission was conducted in the Strait's international waters in July. Theresa May has told the British Parliament the Brexit withdrawal agreement is now 95% complete. But rumblings of a no-confidence vote over her leadership in the coming days continue. There has been a bipartisan outcry, though, over comments made against the embattled Prime Minister by a sitting MP.
For months, she has said nothing is agreed until everything is agreed when it comes to the Brexit divorce deal. But with her job on the line, Theresa May quantified just how much has been agreed.
95% of the withdrawal agreement and its protocols are now settled. There is one real sticking point left, but a considerable one, which is how we guarantee that in the unlikely event our future relationship is not in place by the end of the implementation period, there is no return to a hard border between Northern Ireland and Ireland.
As for the possible extension to the transition period, which would see the UK living by EU rules and paying EU dues beyond the end of 2020...
We've not committed to extending the implementation period. I do not want to extend the implementation period, and I do not believe that extending it will be necessary.
Their Brexit negotiations have been a litany of missed deadlines, shambolic failure, and now they're begging for extra time.
Some supporters of a hard Brexit within the Conservative Party took their message directly to Brussels, meeting with the EU's chief negotiator. It wasn't, they insisted, an attempt to sabotage the talks.
No, the government negotiates. We're just here to present a paper, which we did, and have a constructive discussion, which we had, and we're now going back and we will talk to the government about it.
Meanwhile, there has been near universal condemnation of the language being used by some hard Brexit supporting Conservative MPs against Theresa May. One Tory backbencher was quoted in the newspaper saying, "The moment is coming where the knife gets heated, stuck in her front and twisted, she'll be dead soon."
I stand with her completely against the violent, dehumanising and frankly misogynistic language that we have seen, that I hope the whole House will condemn because it demeans every single one of us.
The Prime Minister said politicians must watch their words. In London, Ben Lewis, SBS World News.
At least 11 people have been killed as Tropical Storm Vicente lashed southern Mexico. Torrential rainfall isolated a town in the state of Oaxaca, flooding homes. Locals were seen wading through waist-high water while troops tried to evacuate trapped people using a boat. Another dangerous storm is expected to hit Mexico's Pacific coast, prompting evacuation warnings. Hurricane Willa is currently a Category 4 system. It could weaken slightly when it makes landfall tomorrow. It's been 1 year since the Battle of Marawi was declared over. IS militants took control of the southern Philippines city for 5 months last year. They were defeated, but the humanitarian crisis continues.
In Marawi, lives are slowly being rebuilt. Charities are preparing families for a return to homes they fled a year ago. It's a change from the sounds of battle that started last May. A small confrontation between IS-backed militants and government forces turned into a full-blown insurgency.
So I was having my class with my students discussing, and then suddenly we heard helicopters and guns and all the explosions.
Aid worker Janera Abdul Mawin was in Marawi City on the first day. Like many others, she fled.
We fled and we met some of those ISIS-influenced groups. We met along the highway, and especially my mother was so afraid because she was thinking that this group of people will get me.
Marawi was under siege as the IS insurgents embedded themselves in the city, and some 200,000 people fled as the military fought to take it back.
There was some 1,000 of the insurgents killed and almost 200 civilians and military forces killed.
After 5 months of urban warfare with most of the militants killed, the Philippine government declared victory.
So in that sense, it was a victory. But in the larger sense, the victory is definitely limited. In the first place, you have all these people who are still disgruntled
and displaced from a destroyed city. The United Nations estimates about 100,000 people cannot return to their homes on the island of Mindanao, and some are turning to extreme measures to feed themselves.
So because of the poverty being encountered by some of the IDPs, they were open to let their young children be married.
As well as about $20 million in humanitarian aid, the Australian government also sent spy planes to fly over Marawi during the battle, and about 100 Australian soldiers remain in the Philippines. The Australian military says it's trained nearly 5,000 of its Philippine counterparts in urban combat, a much-needed skill for soldiers who train for jungle warfare. And one expert says that training may be vital.
Islamic State in the Middle East has proved very resilient over the years, and their affiliates are trying to imitate that in their resilience, to retreat and remain until they're in a position to come back again.
A sobering thought for families in Marawi. Miles Morgan, SBS World News.
After suffering a severe bacterial infection, Alex Lewis had all 4 limbs amputated. If that wasn't a large enough challenge, he's now training to climb one of Africa's highest mountains. He's doing it to help raise awareness of disabilities in Africa.
When Alex Lewis had all his limbs amputated, he struggled to find purpose with life. But this is Alex now. With this groundbreaking buggy, he's now training to go up one of Africa's highest mountains.
So far, so good.
The buggy is powered by Alex's rotation action, which creates electrical energy in the back wheels that in turn pushes him forward.
We will get to the top of the mountain somehow, whether I have to shuffle up the last 300 metres, whether we have to be hoisted up, it doesn't matter. We will make it to the top of the mountain by hook or by crook.
The buggy can climb gradients of 30%. Well, even though we're on Salisbury Plain, the terrain here is similar to that they're going to be finding on the mountain in Ethiopia. And although the buggy can go 35 miles an hour, they're expecting to go much slower when they get there. But sometimes it's not all plain buggying.
I'm stuck.
One minor problem for the Southampton University students who designed it for Alex.
Alex is just such an inspiration, and the fact that I'm going with him and I'm going to see this all firsthand, I mean, it's going to change my life. You know, it's going to forever remain with me, and I don't know, it's unreal.
Let's go rock climbing.
But the buggy can't take Alex the whole way up the mountain. He'll also have to climb the last bit, which means another challenge.
I never thought I'd be in a position where I was going to learn to mountain climb.
But it's not easy. And a few minutes later, comes this.
What's it like at the top?
It's amazing. It's brilliant.
Reaching the top brings a moment of euphoria.
That was brilliant.
For a man who's seen the bottom. The Ras Dashen mountain in Ethiopia is 4,500 metres tall. It'll take Alex and his team 2 weeks to reach the summit. One buggy, several ropes, and endless willpower propelling this extraordinary man to the top.
Back home now, and a helicopter flying over the Invictus Games in Sydney has triggered a British Navy veteran to have a breakdown midway through his wheelchair tennis match. Paul Guest was consoled by his Dutch partner, Edwin Vermetten, who broke the tension by singing the theme song to the Disney movie Frozen. The pair went on to win their match and qualify for today's final. Guest injured his neck and spine while on active duty in 1987 and has post-traumatic stress disorder and depression. Invictus organisers have been mindful of limiting use of helicopters, and the opening ceremony program did not include fireworks. Well, the Australian share market has closed lower, with energy and materials stocks dragging the ASX back towards last week's 6-month low. The 200 ended more than 1% down. Energy stocks were the worst performers. The 4 big banks were down, with ANZ leading the decline. The resources sector plunged despite an overnight lift in iron ore and copper prices. The Australian dollar dropped against the greenback and is mixed against the other major global currencies. Well, coming up next, after years of troubled waters, the world's longest sea bridge finally opens. Also going the distance, one of Australia's greatest boxers vows to end his 18-year career on a high.
She confessed she had a fling.
Who's your daddy?
I think you need to know the truth.
Daddy was a player.
DNA surprises.
It's a lot to take in.
My wife said your past has caught up with you.
I have 3 half-siblings, 2 boys and the girl. There's 6 others.
Then on Dateline, the holiday paradise with a hell of a reputation. Inside, followed by Dateline, tonight from 8:30 on SBS and on demand.
In a civil society, racism has no part of justice.
A task force led by Harry Bosch. This is the white man you think is going to drill down to the truth?
I do.
We get this wrong, the city could explode.
Ask the right questions. I have to believe the answers will get me to the truth.
It's pretty amazing out there. The world is full of more possibilities than ever before. And American Express has your back every step of the way. Whether it's the comfort of knowing help is just a call away with Global Assist, or getting the spending power to help your business thrive. No one has your back like American Express. So wherever you go, we're right there with you. The powerful backing of American Express. Don't do business without it. Don't live life without it.
I get asked all the time about mine, but to anyone who surfs, they get it.
It took 3 years of saving to buy my first car, so I really wanted to make it mine.
My Plates.
My Plates.
Visit myplates.com.au.
Ready, set, summer. Our dresses, tops and bottoms, an unbelievable $15 every day. Best price ever. Ready, set, go before they run out. Best and less.
Mitsubishi Eclipse Cross, here now for wherever next.
This Thursday from 7:30 on SBS, Tony Robinson's Hidden Britain by Drone.
A mysterious phenomenon.
Tony's drones reveal the truth about crop circles. Then at 8:30, Police Custody, a moment of madness.
These are the most dangerous types of people that we're dealing with in society.
And at 9:30, War and Peace. Napoleon invades Russia.
We're about to fight the bloodiest battle yet.
Thursday from 7:30 on SBS.
Hi there, my name is Mark Fidel.
And I am Jan Fran. And right after World News, we would love you to join us for the feed.
It's a nightly mix of news, current affairs, culture and comedy.
Tonight, imagine waking in terror, fearing for your life, bruises everywhere and your room in disarray. But you can't remember why. That's the reality of living with night terrors.
They think they're possessed. They think they're psychiatrically ill. They think that someone's controlling them.
That's the feed, right after the news over on SBS Viceland.
The world's longest sea bridge connecting Hong Kong and Macau to the Chinese city of Zhuhai has officially opened. The controversial landmark took nearly 9 years to build and cost about $30 billion and 18 workers' lives.
700 guests packed into the bridge's immigration clearance centre on an artificial island in Zhuhai, with little fanfare President Xi Jinping proclaiming the bridge open.
正式开通
The $28 billion bridge will dramatically cut travel times from Hong Kong to Zhuhai from 4 hours to 30 minutes.
工作完毕以后，他可以选择当天回去香港，澳门更加是无缝连接的。所以这个港珠澳大桥呢，我们相信。
The 55-kilometre bridge dips into a 7-kilometre undersea tunnel between two artificial islands to allow ships through.
因为这个工程的话呢，就是在世界上都是一个奇迹一样的。
But those who want to use the bridge must obtain a special permit allocated by a quota system, and all vehicles will pay a toll. Most drivers will have to park their car at a port and switch to a shuttle bus, costing around $12 for a single trip.
比如说香港、澳门这里3地的话，它的旅游行业的话，肯定会达到一个高峰期的这样。
The bridge has been designed to withstand earthquakes and typhoons and was built using 420,000 tonnes of steel, enough to build 8 Sydney Harbour bridges.
The construction of the bridge, it's marvellous. It's great. It's great.
But there's been a great deal of criticism over the project. It's been dubbed the Bridge of Death by some local media after 18 workers died during construction. Environmental groups say the project has caused serious harm to marine life in the area, including the critically rare Chinese white dolphin. Critics have called the bridge a big white elephant that guarantees no economic return. Others say its main purpose is symbolic, ensuring Hong Kong is physically connected to the mainland.
It's almost like an umbilical cord.
The bridge will open to traffic tomorrow. Anita Clark, SBS World News.
To the day in sport now, and Anthony Mundine says he wants to be a force for change as his professional boxing career draws to an end. Mundine will fight former WBO welterweight world champion Jeff Horn next month. The 43-year-old confirmed it'll likely be the final bout of his 18-year career.
Anthony Mundine has always enjoyed the spotlight.
He's all hype. He's all hype, man. He's all hype. I'm going to prove he's all hype.
But with his career drawing to an end, he's looking to the future.
I would love to make change for the better, for all people, for all nationalities, for all people. Don't matter black, Chinese, white. Don't matter what you are.
Mundine won't stand for the Australian anthem when he fights Jeff Horn next month in a bid to raise awareness for Indigenous affairs.
I'm not trying to divide the people. I'm trying to bring the people together. We're a multicultural country, but you got to recognise the First Nations. You got to recognise the Indigenous people.
His father couldn't be prouder.
I think it's a really good thing for somebody to speak out, to say what's happening in this country.
Mundine says he still has plenty to offer.
I truly believe if I had the desire to go on another 5 years, I could. I'm talking at a world-class level, but the desire's not there anymore.
Others believe he has fought too long.
He may win the fight, he may win against Jeff Horn, but it doesn't mean that I feel comfortable as a boxing commentator seeing Anthony Mundine at 43 in the ring.
It will likely be the final chapter in a sporting journey that has seen him reach the highest level in rugby league and boxing.
You cannot put another one next to me. I'm here, the rest are down here.
The fight takes place in Brisbane on November the 30th. Adrian Archuli, SBS World News.
The man. To football, and the Mariners insist the uncertainty surrounding Usain Bolt's A-League future isn't a distraction for the club. Bolt won't attend training this week as negotiations continue between him and the Central Coast. The club admits it's unlikely he'll sign a contract without the financial contribution of an external third party. Defender Khalifa Cisse says Mariners fans will continue to support the club either way.
Maybe a lot of people wanted and want to see him, but first the football fans, the proper football fans, will come at the stadium to support the team and not one player.
It's understood Bolt has been offered a deal worth $150,000 a season. In the Premier League, and Mesut Ozil has inspired Arsenal to a 10th straight win in all competitions. His first-time shot cancelled out Leicester's opener. He then unlocked the visitors' defence, Hector Bellerin's cross, finding Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Ozil also orchestrated the third to set up Aubameyang for a tap-in to complete the win. The Gunners moving up to fourth. Greater Western Sydney has expressed its disappointment after a video emerged showing ruck coach and former player Shane Mumford snorting a white substance. The AFL has confirmed it is investigating the incident, which occurred in 2015. 5 Australian cricket matches have been fixed. That's according to a bombshell report into the game. Cricket Australia effectively cleared Australian players of any wrongdoing 2 months ago, but broadcaster Al Jazeera has revealed new claims alleging up to 15 matches from January 2011 through to September 2012 were fixed.
Al Jazeera's investigative unit has obtained recordings of phone calls made by a notorious match fixer to a bookmaker's operation in India. The calls are made to Dinesh Kalgi, a bookmaker linked to organised crime, by match fixer Anil Manohar.
I'm telling you, each script I give, it will happen and happen.
Manohar featured in an Al Jazeera undercover investigation in May, when he gave advanced details of spot fixes for test matches involving England and Australia. In the newly obtained recordings, Manohar describes 26 fixes in 15 international matches in 2011 and 2012. The recordings indicate that 2 or 3 players are involved in each fix. The evidence points to a small group of England players carrying out spot fixes in 7 matches, Australian players in 5 matches, and Pakistan players in 3.
Traditionally, historically, England and Australia are not supposed to be fixing matches, and that will stun the cricketing world.
Spot fixes affect only part of a match and do not determine the overall result. Most of Manohar's spot fixes are session fixes, in which players underperform during a session or bracket of 6, 8 or 10 overs.
What is going on? How on earth do you account for these eventualities all panning out exactly as forecast?
Australia's Cricket Board described the claims as contemptible. The England and Wales Cricket Board said the allegations had no basis. Al Jazeera intends to hand over unedited material to the relevant police authorities.
Meantime, Australia's women's team has completed a clean sweep of its one-day series against Pakistan. Ashley Gardner backed up her unbeaten knock of 62 by taking 3 wickets. The 89-run win puts Australia in a strong position heading into the T20 World Cup in the Caribbean.
Going into World Cup, we have so much experience and wealth in our team, and obviously the likes of those girls to come back in our side is a really positive and amazing thing for us to, I guess, be able to do.
Australia will now play Pakistan in a 3-game T20 series commencing on Thursday. And finally in sport, Jada Wyman is hoping a breakthrough W-League season may see her clinch a spot in the Matildas World Cup squad. At just 18, the Wanderers keeper has her work cut out, but she's determined to make her dreams come true.
There may be players ahead of her for a Matildas spot, but Jada Wyman isn't concerned.
Work hard and don't let anything get in your way. Hard work can get you anywhere. If you're determined enough to get there, then nothing will stop you.
She's already played at under-19s for Australia, but the W-League and the Western Sydney Wanderers is her focus now.
We've got some great players that have come to the club, starting a base team and just having a great coach as well. I think we'll put some great performances on this year.
Current Australia #1 and fellow Indigenous keeper Lydia Williams is Wyman's inspiration.
I looked up to Lydia Williams, the goalkeeper for Matildas. She's an amazing Indigenous role model, so yeah, I've always looked up to her.
But she's already inspiring her community.
John Moriarty Foundation helped me out financially. They've helped me out just in amazing ways like that. And being able to mentor kids from Northern Territory who have come down to do sports schools and whatnot. There's about 4 of them up here now. So yeah, just to do something like that with them is fantastic.
Wyman was in the Matildas squad for the recent matches against France and England, but didn't take the field.
Yeah, for sure, is to be in there with them and just keep pushing for the spot as goalkeepers.
The Wanderers play Sydney FC on Thursday in a blockbuster start to season 11 of the W League. John Baldock, SBS World News.
And a reminder, you can catch the upcoming W League season on SBS Viceland. Our coverage of 15 matches and the final series begins on Sunday. All games are live, free and in HD. There's also streaming via the World Game website and the app. Coming up next, the weather and Korea peace talks lead to a demilitarised zone tourist boom.
Next on SBS, the secret behind these ruins on abandoned Britain. Then at 8:30, surprising results from DNA tests on Insight. And on Dateline, the holiday paradise that's gone to hell.
Do you know the name Alice Webster?
She was abducted in 2003.
She came back. I don't feel like it's her.
The Missing starts tomorrow at 8:30 on SBS and on demand.
Hey, Bobby, mate.
Introducing the Weber Genesis 2. The brand new Weber GS4 cooking system gives complete cooking and temperature control, ensuring even heat and incredible barbecue flavour every time you cook. And it's all covered by a 10-year, 100% Weber guarantee.
It's not just a Barbie, it's the Weber Genesis 2.
It's not just an evolution, it's a revolution.
Jax, there's one thing that's just not quite right here.
One thing?
Guy's got a nice car, executive type. Takes out this car insurance policy. Could have got top-notch cover for way less.
Yeah, that... What the...
You said it, Jax. What the...
It's a mystery why anyone would pay more for car insurance. Get award-winning cover for less with Budget Direct. Insurance solved.
Everything about the life you lead starts with what you choose to eat.
So start with Australia's favourite free-range chicken.
And taste what it's like to live free range.
So how much do you think this will go for?
Something around $780. Yeah, $780-ish. $850.
Get Australia's most accurate free property price predictions from ANZ.
Nice Hilux.
With Toyota cap price servicing for the next 3 years, I'm still feeling it.
What the?
Still feeling it, Keith?
Oh, lucky for you, Jackie boy. Yeah, I'm still feeling it. Now clean it up.
Keep feeling the value with Hilux SR5 manual from $52,990 drive away. Search Toyota value. Oh, what a feeling. Toyota.
Don't forget to feed the dog.
Yeah, bye. Now, which button do I press to get Freeview Plus again? No, not playtime. It's TV time. Oh, naughty boy. Not now, Dougie. Oh, yeah, the green button. I knew I'd remember eventually.
Press the green button for Freeview Plus and keep up with the Freemans.
The 2000s, an era of groundbreaking diversity. From Bush to Beyonce and everything in between.
The world was changed forever.
Our war on terror begins with Al-Qaeda.
The dawn of the internet age,
Steve Jobs figured it out.
A meltdown on Wall Street.
New Orleans is no longer safe to live in. America wants something new.
Relive the milestone moments that defined the world we live in today. The 2000s starts Sunday 8:30 on SBS and on demand.
Online DNA tests are becoming increasingly popular, but as DNA banks get larger, people are uncovering surprises. Tonight on Insight, Janice Peterson speaks with people who discover their families aren't all that they seemed.
Did you expect your life would be turned
upside down by taking a simple online DNA test?
No, and I tell everyone now that mentions taking it, be sure you're ready for anything.
Hear more of their stories tonight on SBS at 8:30 p.m. To the weather now, and a trough extends from Western Australia through the Northern Territory to southeast Queensland. An active band of cloud covers the Kimberley region, and another associated with a cold front is passing through Victoria and Tasmania. In the major centres, partly cloudy in Adelaide and Hobart, a possible shower for Perth, and the wind should ease in Sydney. Looking further afield, partly cloudy over New Zealand, showers in Samoa and thunder in Nadi. In Southeast Asia, more thunder for Bangkok and Kuala Lumpur. Stormy weather for Singapore also. Rain in Phnom Penh and cloudy in Denpasar. Further north, Beijing and Seoul enjoying the best of the sunshine, but rain in Hanoi, cloudy in Hong Kong, Shanghai and Tokyo. Heading west, thunder in Delhi, partly cloudy in Islamabad, fine in Mumbai, and showers for Baghdad. Up to Europe now, sunny weather for Athens and Rome, fine in Madrid and Stockholm, also showers in Istanbul and over Warsaw. Down to Africa, showers in Addis Ababa and Algiers, fine in Casablanca and Johannesburg, thunder on the way for Lagos. To South America, rainy from Bogota right down to La Paz, drizzle in Rio de Janeiro, cloudy in Lima and Santiago. And lastly, for North America, fog in Los Angeles, showers in Denver and Washington, fine in New York and Chicago, showers in Mexico City. Well, for decades, the demilitarized zone has stood as the frontier between two countries that are technically still at war, North and South Korea. Now, as relations start to thaw, the countries have agreed to remove weapons from guards in Panmunjom. While the DMZ is attracting more and more tourists from around the world, South Korea has even built an observation deck so people can take in the cross-border view.
To come this close, you must sign up for a group tour, then go through a military checkpoint. Security is tight as the two countries are still technically at war. Just north of the border there, you can see the joint industrial complex in Kaesong. Now, that was shut down in 2016 amid escalating tensions over North Korea's nuclear and missile tests. Just last month, though, the two sides set up a joint liaison office, bringing back life into the once deserted area. Right next to it, under that huge flagpole, is the North Korean propaganda village, also sitting inside the DMZ. And a bit further north is the truce village of Panmunjom, where South Korean President Moon Jae-in and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un received international spotlight by holding their first historic summit in April.
Maybe it's because of heightened expectations, but North Korea doesn't look as scary anymore. Before, it felt like North Korea was the enemy, but now it feels like reunification may come soon.
Many domestic and foreign tourists come here, as the DMZ has become a symbol of inter-Korean peace and coexistence. So we built a new observatory to meet such an increase in demand with a better view.
More than 6 decades after the Korean War ended in an armistice and not a peace treaty, roughly 600,000 visitors come here every year to see the communist country up close. And there will be no shortage of visitors as long as the momentum for peace continues.
Well, archaeologists say they found the world's oldest intact shipwreck. This 23-metre vessel is thought to be ancient Greek. The wreckage lies at the bottom of the Black Sea and it appears to have been there undisturbed for more than 2,400 years. Researchers say it was preserved by a lack of oxygen, almost 2 kilometres below the surface. Electric cars can be eerily quiet, and that can be a dangerous hazard to the visually impaired. But thanks to a successful charity campaign, car makers will now be required to introduce audible alert systems in new hybrid and electric models. The sounds will mimic the shifting pitch and volume of a petrol engine. Tones will also indicate a change in direction. Recapping our top stories now, in hopes that refugees could soon be removed from Nauru have been dashed by the Prime Minister. Scott Morrison dismissed a cross-party compromise to break the long-standing deadlock. President Trump says he'll cut all foreign aid to Guatemala, Honduras and El Salvador for failing to stop thousands of migrants from heading to the US. The UN warns the devastating famine in Yemen could get even worse as the port city of Hodeidah comes under fire. Oscar-winning actor Geoffrey Rush fights back tears as he denies behaving inappropriately in the federal court. That's the world this Tuesday. I'll have news updates throughout the evening on SBS and, of course, another bulletin just after 11 tonight. The SBS News website has all the latest stories, and you can get news anywhere, anytime with the SBS News app. Good night.